Can you hear me? Okay, I'll leave it off, but can anybody hear me?
We come into this world unknown, but know that we are not alone. They try to knock us down, but change is coming. It's our time now. Hey, everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. And hey, yeah, I know what you're going through. Don't let it get the best of you. You'll make it out alive. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. Hey, this is not a funeral, it's a revolution after all. Your tears have turned to rage. Just wait, everything will be okay. Even when you're feeling like you're going down in flames. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. They can't do nothing to you, they can't do nothing to me. This is the life that we choose, this is the life that we bleed. So throw your fists in the air, come out if you dare. Tonight we're gonna change forever. Everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
It's UUCC Zoom-In Live with special guest Nancy King-Smith. Here's your host, David Kantor, with co-host Claudia Victoroff.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our pinch-hitting co-host, Claudia Victoroff.
Hi, everyone.
So for those of you who are keeping score, this would normally be an episode where Jenna Bradburn will be our co-host, but alas, today is Jenna's birthday. And amazingly, I say amazingly, she opted to not spend her birthday with all of her friends at UUCC Zoom-In Live. Who could have thought that? Anyway, seriously though, we welcome Jenna Wish her a very happy birthday. Look forward to her being with us next month. So in the meantime, though, we have our able pinch-hitting co-host, Claudia Viktorov. Some of you might know Claudia. Claudia actually grew up in the predecessor congregation, First U. So Claudia, when you think back to your time at First U way back when, what are your biggest memories of growing up in First U?
Oh, I think that First U was kind of the first place that I built like friendships with folks who weren't my age. So I have good memories of talking to people, some intergenerational relationship building. I think that's my primary memory.
So some people may or may not have noticed you've been away for a while and now you're back. How did you get back here? What happened?
I got a PhD position, so that brought me back. I knew I wanted to come back, and there was a position open at Case Western and the Holden Arboretum, so it worked out.
And what's your PhD going to be in?
It's a PhD in biology, but I focus on symbiotic mycorrhizal fungi.
Oh yeah, I did that when I was in sixth grade. Yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, no problem at all, really. So, but I don't know anything about microbiological fungi, but I did get a COVID shot this past week. It was very exciting. So through one of my son's friends, we actually got on a list and went out to Chardon without insulting anybody. Let's to Chardon in the middle of the snowstorm or the blizzard last Tuesday and got our shots on the way out there. The roads were clear. It was no big deal at all. Got out there, got our shots, easy in, easy out. And then on our way back though, Claudia, it was 6 o'clock and it was dark and the snow is still coming down. And all those snow plows that had cleared the roads on the way out, well, they were off duty now, apparently. So both on all the roads, the snow was there and the people are still driving like the roads were clear. So I discovered that there is another, they talk about COVID side effects, about chills and fevers and stuff like that. But there's actually another side effect. When you're on the roads and all those people are driving like crazy, suddenly with the COVID vaccine, you start cursing like crazy. Who would have thought? So just as an aside, so be warned, folks, when you get your COVID vaccine, beware of the cursing. Mine only lasted about an hour or so until I got home and it was all gone. As an aside now, quick reminder, use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to announce yourself, please. Send it to everybody, not just the panelists, because your fellow congregants want to know that you are here.
If you've been with us before, thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time with us, we're glad you're here. We hope that joining us every couple of weeks becomes a part of your routine. If you're enjoying yourself, please tell your UUCC friends, the more the merrier. And another reminder, if you missed a past show and you want to check it out, many of the episodes are up on the UUCC YouTube channel. There are a few episodes that are currently being held up because David has a habit of using music without permission. So he needs to do some editing before those episodes are up on the site.
I am telling you, I spoke to Carole King. I talked to Taylor Swift. I talked to Paul and Ringo. They all said it was fine. Honestly, I don't know what happened. Anyway, another couple of reminders to you guys. Claudia, Allison, Bastian, and I are in the early stages of planning our next UUCC game night, a virtual night, of course. We have a date. It's Saturday evening, March 20th. So please place that date on your calendar. More details to follow. And if you, as a reminder, we're doing a viewership survey right now to get some input from you all as we seek in our to try to evolve the show positively. You may or may not know this, but tonight's our 6-month kind of anniversary, roughly 6 months since we started the show. I know time sure does fly by when you're having fun. So if you received the link to our survey and you filled it out, great. If you have not, please do so. You still have a couple of days to get it back to us. You can use one of the links on the screen right now to go there and fill out that survey. It really is easy. It's quick. I worked on it with Carol and our other producer, Liz Kantor. It really does zoom on by to take it and get it done. So please do that. I will tell you that I've gotten some great comments, in which I'll share with you later. The best comment I liked most is one that I don't know who this came from. I think it came from maybe Mary Ellen McNulty. Her comment was she wants David to be David, not business David. So business David is like this. Real David is perhaps a bit more out there. And so I'm not sure how the rest of you might feel about that. Maybe you'll get some of that, maybe you won't. But in any case, I digress. As many of you know who attend the show routinely, we've established a Jack Ullman comedy moment where we hear some jokes from Jack. As many of you know right now, Jack is coming to us these days from his winter home in Florida, where there is no snow and there are these beautiful sunsets. Yes, Jack is sending me pictures from time to time, just so I know where he is, as opposed to where I am. I think we might have a picture coming up shortly here, maybe, kind of, sort of. So, well, not seeing it yet, so let's move on. Everybody, please welcome Jack Ullman. Jack?
Good evening, David. Good evening, Claudia. Good to see you again, and good to be all with you again. Tonight, I feel like a little snail humor because Nancy King Smith, of course, is our chief naturalist. You know, by the way, why the French eat snails? They don't like fast food. A gentleman is sitting comfortably in his living room when he hears scratching at his door. He opens it and sees a snail on his porch. He picks the snail up, throws it across the street and into the woods. A few years pass by, and once again he hears scratching at the door. He opens it and sees the same snail. The snail says, "What the hell was that all about?" Well, that's it for Jack's jokes. Sunset I see is one I took, actually. Nice to see it. Good to see you all. Thank you.
Now, Jack, I'm sure it's good for you to see it. You're living it. We're just looking at it and getting jealous here, but never mind. Jack, thanks so much for being with us. And by the way, for those of you who are filling out our survey and stuff, we will be sharing results with you after we get all our results on back and we process it ourselves to understand what we're thinking about here. But in the meantime, enough about surveys. Let's get on to our special guest here. Our special guest this evening is Nancy King Smith, a true UU icon who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway. So Nancy has been a leader for both UUCC and one of its predecessors, First Unitarian. She was a member of the initial UUCC Board and was, among other things, board president of First U, back when women were in their early stages of moving into the leadership roles of the congregation. I know it seems kind of hard to process that right now, right? Given all the leadership roles that women take in our congregation. But alas, I guess that wasn't quite the case way back when, and maybe Nancy will share a little bit about that with us this evening. Nancy also has a long and storied life as a justice advocate. It's impossible to list all the areas and issues that she has championed, but her work on the environment and racial justice certainly should be highlighted. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Nancy King Smith.
Hi, Nancy.
Well,
Here.
Nancy, I will tell you that's a warmer welcome than I've ever gotten. But of course, maybe. After all, you are the icon here. So how are you doing this evening, Nancy?
I'm doing great, and it's really good to be here and fun to have a number of friends and family join in. So this is good.
Yeah, so let's just hope now that I don't embarrass I don't worry about you. I just want to make sure I don't embarrass myself tonight. So we'll see how this goes. So let's start with one of those general questions I wonder about with folks. So how are you dealing with COVID? What are you missing the most? Talk about that a little bit with us.
All right. Well, overall, I would have to say I've had it pretty easy. It's been boring as hell, but it's great to, I mean, I've had it easy compared to my daughters dealing with kids and so many people with jobs. So anyway, but we've just been hanging out here. I really miss not being able to travel to see my grandchildren. I really miss not hanging out in person with.
What the fuck?
Overall, it's been, just a kind of quiet internal time. And a lot of Zoom meetings, I will say.
So
Hi, man. Oh, is it much? I think we want to start out by hearing a little bit about your personal history. Where are you from, Nancy?
Well, grew up in Bakersfield, California.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what made you land in Cleveland?
Well, let's do a little in betweenish because I grew up in Bakersfield, and I think my brother's on tonight from Palm Springs, and his wife Terry. But
But we hate them too, right? Obviously. I mean, never mind though.
yeah. And so anyway, I went to college in Southern California at Pomona College, which is where I ended up meeting Kemp, who was at Claremont Men's College. And they're all part of the same campus area.
So you know my son went to school there, Nancy.
Pardon?
My son went to school there. My son went to college at Pomona.
I absolutely know that. Yeah, Pomona is an absolutely fabulous place. And if your son went there, you know that it's both excellent and expensive.
Well, actually, he went there after he was in the Marine Corps, so it's all on the GI Bill and their nickel. So I didn't have to worry about that at all. I wasted my money when he went to college earlier on.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we ended up getting married the week after we graduated, honeymooned by counseling at a camp on the Northern California coast, and then drove across country to grad school in Philadelphia. And anyway, we took jobs in Schenectady, New York, spent 13 years there, had our daughters there, moved to Shaker Heights in 1981. There's more in between, but that's how we got to Shaker Heights, living 2 doors down from UUCC.
And when you were growing up in California, what was your family structure like? Who did you share a home with?
Yep, had one brother and our parents, a wonderful family that we did a lot of camping. And the nice thing about Bakersfield, I wouldn't recommend living there to anybody, but it was a great place to grow up, and we could get easily to Sequoia and the mountains. We could get easily to the beach and also to LA, where we had family. So we grew up with a lot of positive things.
Was church one of those positive things? Did you grow up with church?
We were a very Methodist family. We had
Did you go to church routinely?
Oh, routinely, I mean, every week, and Sunday school and youth groups, and a group of families in the church who were also teachers at the high school with our father, who was a teacher and administrator at the high school. And so this group of families would go camping every summer. And so we had the church, the school, the family time, but the Methodist church was really a center of our life.
I know you mentioned where you went to college, but you mentioned going to graduate school. What was your major and your concentration? And at that time, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I was an English lit major.
Oh, cool.
And what I didn't want to be was a teacher, because both my parents and much of the family were teachers. So I wanted to do something else. But then I majored in English lit. And what do you do with English lit when suddenly you need to have a job? And we went to graduate school in Philadelphia, where Kemp was at Penn in physics. And I got a position in the National Teacher Corps at Temple University. So all of a sudden there I was training to be a teacher. And so I did teach.
So Nancy, as you know, this is I'm saying this tongue in cheek, this is a hard-hitting journalistic show. So we have some deep dive questions of things that people want to know about you. So one of the things people want to know about is we want to understand your name. So we know is your first name Nancy? Is your first name Nancy King? Is your last name King Smith? Is your last name Smith? Where's the king? Where's the queen? Talk to us all about that, please.
Yes, well, my name is indeed Nancy Lorraine King Smith. And the Lorraine is very important because my grandmother's first name was Lorraine, my mother's middle name, my middle name, my daughter Kara's middle name, and my granddaughter Avery's middle name are all Lorraine. So that's important, but it's not out there very much. So for the first 13 years of our married life, I was Nancy Smith. And you know what people think when you say Nancy Smith, like, oh, are you for real?
You're on witness protection, obviously, yes.
Let's see, there are 16 Nancy Smiths here in the database. Which one are you? So when we moved to Cleveland, I decided I would put in my maiden name, which is King, and I became Nancy King Smith. The outcome of that overall has been good. It's not hyphenated. However, Kemp has complained that he sometimes gets called Mr. King. He sometimes gets called Mr. King Smith, and it does confuse people.
Hey, Kemp, I feel your pain. I get called David McNulty all the time, man. I feel it. I feel it. So we use your we write your initials as NKS. So it's really be NLKS, huh?
Right.
So okay. Just so I know for the future. Because by the way, as an aside, you're right. If I were to reference you as Nancy Smith to somebody else, they'd say, who the hell are you talking about? Right? They wouldn't have a clue at all. Absolutely. So you alluded to before about your daughter and your granddaughter. Tell us about your family now. So
okay. So we have two daughters. Kara lives with her family, husband Joby, who just took a job in Colorado Springs after retiring from the Air Force. And they have a 14-year-old, almost 15-year-old daughter, Avery, also Avery Lorraine, and a son, Gavin, who is 12. And our younger daughter, Haley, lives in Portland with her husband, Harrison Green Fishback, and talk about complicated last names. And
yeah.
their two boys, Rowan, who's 12, and Benton, who is 9, going to be 10 in May.
Outstanding. So how did you find UU? I mean, you grew up a Methodist. How did you find UU? How did you find First U? Where did all that come from?
Well, finding First U was very easy since it was 2 doors down from where we lived on Shaker Boulevard. We're 21,800, church is 21,600. And when we moved to Cleveland, we had spent our first number of years as a married couple in first Philadelphia, then Schenectady. We checked out Kemp was Presbyterian and I was Methodist. We checked those out. They didn't really work, and we decided that skiing and backpacking were our go-to Sunday things to do. But after we'd had our daughters, we really felt like the church community had been really important to both of us growing up. And so when we moved to Shaker Heights with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, we thought, let's see what we can find. And I had some contact with some of the Unitarian Universalists in Schenectady and thought, well, maybe we should check that out. And as it happened, all it took was walking down the street. We really started by finding the Bach concert and all of that with Marcy Hawk as a kind of a draw in, and then decided, yeah, this works. Our kids can walk over there. We started Sunday school and ended up joining. So that's, and the fit was there in terms of the values and the approach to a faith community.
So what is it about the congregation that keeps you coming back for more?
It's the community, it is the values, it's the justice work, It's the sense of being part of an intergenerational community where I can know people who I may not have job or professional or that much in common with, but can get to know people who come from a variety of backgrounds.
So I guess I'm curious as to how you got involved in leadership roles at First U. I mean, I know it sounds silly now, given all the women who have led and are leading our congregation. When you first got involved in leadership, was there any resistance about it because you were a woman, or was it a cruise in the park?
When I've been thinking back on that, when I first got involved with the congregation, I worked closely with Maury Brown on what was a predecessor to the forum. We did a bunch of Sunday morning adult forum kinds of things. And I taught Sunday school with Judy Rawson, who went on to become mayor of Shaker. And so I didn't feel like there weren't opportunities, but it was true that the presidents of the congregation were men and the ministers were men. But as we were there, and after we'd been there our required 3 years, we were contacted by the nominating committee, and they said, we'd like one of you, either Kemp or you, to be on the board. And at that point, I was involved in League of Women Voters and various other things. So Kemp was the one who went on the board, and he went on to become president of the congregation. But very shortly after or before, and my memory is hazy on this, I believe that Diane Olson was the first president of the congregation. And Diane went on to be elected as moderator of the UUA, but they had moved to Arizona and then California by that time. I know that Jan Devereaux was president early on, and then Elaine Stevens, and I ended up being asked to come on the board to fill a vacancy and to be vice president and then become president, which is what I did. So I never felt that there was any problem. I mean, I had plenty of wonderful predecessors, and certainly our congregation, with having 2 women as ministers back in the late 19th century, had recognized the opportunity for women leadership. But anyway, that's my recollection.
Thanks. So we're going to have Claudia do the Colbert lightning round with you. So for those of you who have seen the show before, you know what this is about. For those of you who are new, Stephen Colbert invented a 15-question lightning round to do with guests that he says will really allow you to know what somebody's all about from answering those questions. We're not doing 15 questions. We're just doing 9 of them. So Claudia is going to do this lightning round with Nancy. I want to emphasize lightning round. So ladies, it's up to you, but go forth. And after these 9 items, we're going to know who Nancy Nancy the Rain King Smith really is. Claudia, floor is yours.
Okay, what's the best sandwich?
Tuna.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, I don't think I have a favorite, but I love the film festival, and The Unimaginable Life of Peter Ertel was just amazing.
This question says scariest animal, but you can also say favorite because you have a naturalist mentality.
Butterflies.
Favorite or scariest?
Oh, favorite.
Okay, apples or oranges?
Apples.
What do you think happens when we die?
Oh, that's such a complicated thing, but our bodies decompose and our spirits go into the spirit ether and are available to everyone forever.
What is your favorite smell?
Apricot.
What's the most used app on your cell phone?
Mail.
What is one song to listen to? You have one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
Oh, I don't know if I could choose just one song, but I would probably listen to Mozart forever.
Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
The rest of my life, oh dear.
Write the question.
I will just
Put
say,
this on this.
David.
Engaged, happy, outdoors, with friends and family, love.
That's the new 5 words, but thank you, Nancy. So Nancy, during your working career, I recall your passion leading nonprofits, and particularly your work at the Shaker Heights Nature Center. Where did this passion come from?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a passion for nonprofits. In fact, I won't get off on this, but I think it's a pretty unworkable model overall. But I got into it, as I said, I trained in the National Teacher Corps as a teacher and started teaching in Schenectady, and got interested in alternative education and activities-based education. So when we moved to Cleveland and the opportunity, I saw a job opening at the not yet open and still forming Cleveland Children's Museum. I applied and became the director of education and volunteers. And that was a way of really doing activities-based learning in a non-classroom but educational setting. When the founding director left, they asked me to fill in as executive director, and I found I enjoyed that, and applied for the directorship and did for several years. So it was more sort of finding my way into it and learning on the job. When I left the Children's Museum, then I was asked to fill in as interim director for the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes. And I am, as Jack was kind in saying, I'm a naturalist. I love the outdoors. I love it all. And I am so far from being a knowledgeable naturalist. I wish I were better at it. But and so I didn't expect that I would stay on. I had some nonprofit experience in the education, but in fact, it seemed to be a good match at the Nature Center. So I did then become executive director and was there for 10 years. So my passion is not for nonprofits. My passion is about bringing educational opportunities to everyone, to children, to adults, and particularly to the urban kids who often don't have those kinds of experiences.
So, it seems like it's hard to sort out, and maybe this is on purpose, where your career stuff ended and your volunteer stuff began. So talk to us a little bit about about this meshing of your professional stuff with your volunteer stuff.
Yeah, they have all sort of wound around each other, and throughout, I mean, as moving to Shaker Heights, and as I said, I got involved in League of Women Voters, and very early on got engaged with sort of the racial justice and integration and so on. Worked on a program called Racial Harmony Plus to bring the SCORE program to the parents of middle schoolers. And that was a wonderful program. And then ended up going to the Children's Museum. I will say, with a little bit of, at one point I received the Ohio Governor's Award for Human Relations, which was pretty exciting. and got to go down to Columbus and accept that. So that racial justice piece, I was on the Shaker Heights Human Relations Commission, was really very much a part of it. In going to the Children's Museum, that still was important, and I worked closely with Sandy Holmes, who I think is on tonight, who was with the with NCCJ
At the time.
at that point in time, and we put together a diversity exhibit at the Children's Museum. Meanwhile, the environment was still something I cared a lot about. And so going to the Nature Center was very much in line with my interests and concern for the out of doors that really started out in the Sierras in California with camping and backpacking and all of that. So the two have interwoven, and the First Church and now UUCC have been sort of among the ways I've been able to live out both of those interests.
So you walked right into the next question, Claudia.
We want to hear a little bit about the history of UU Ministry for the Earth. Where did that idea come from? Why is it important to you, and why should it be important to all of us?
Well, when I retired from the Nature Center, I was very much interested. We'd done a green building remodel and addition, and I was really paying a lot of attention to what was happening with the climate change as it was becoming known more and more. And I had the opportunity to apply to be a regional director, is what they called it, sounds bigger than it is, for the National UU Ministry for Earth, and helping promote the Green Sanctuary Program. So I thought, well, if I'm going to, and I did that, but I thought, well, if I'm doing it for the region, we need to be doing it here at First Church as well. And so we sort of got the committee, which had fallen apart from an earlier time going, and really worked on the Green Sanctuary program for our congregation. And then because of that, I was asked to be on the board of the National UU Ministry for Earth, became co-chair. And then after leaving that, ended up now being chair of the Green Sanctuary Program Advisory Board for the national program. But Claudia, please talk a little bit about how because we've had a long time connection, which has been so wonderful.
Well, I'm supposed to be asking the question, but so to those who literally, like everybody except my mom and now David, who don't know, Nancy took me to my first ever protest, which was a protest against fracking. And we drove down with a few other, I was maybe 14 or so. We drove down with a few other women, members of the congregation, to Youngstown. And it was the first time that I ever really participated in any sort of organizing. And it was the first time that I ever, felt confident yelling in a group of people about something I was passionate about. And Nancy was right there next to me the entire time. So she has certainly been fully inspirational to me in my path towards environmental justice. And, if folks in the congregation don't know that you all inspire the younger generation, hopefully I'm testament to it, because I've always, for, a decade, I've credited Nancy with bringing me into environmental justice. And so we have this shared passion. Nancy, maybe you could give a little testament to why should this path towards ministry for the earth and activism for the earth, why should this be so important to all of us, in your opinion?
Well, there's no question that climate change is upon us, and it's the greatest physical and moral challenge of our time. But it also is very intersectional in terms of the people who are most impacted by climate change are those who already have the least, whether it's international or in the United States, where people of color are often those who are most impacted by power plants, by waste, by water problems, whatever it is. And so it's just incredibly important that we all be looking at how we and the way we live can, and the policies we pursue, et cetera, can reverse where we're heading in terms of using way more than the resources of our earth allow our population to, and to pay the most attention to those who have the least, to do this with justice.
I think we want to talk a little bit more about your involvement and your passion and leadership for racial justice issues. And it sounds like this is really interconnected to your passion for environmental justice, which, like you said, those things are very inherently, unfortunately, connected. So when did your passion and leadership for racial justice really start? I know you mentioned one program you were involved with. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about how that started for you.
Well, I'll have to go back to my family in Bakersfield, who really cared about justice for everybody. And then, you know, going on to college and having a colleague when I was a Girl Scout counselor, African-American young woman who inspired me a lot, and a roommate on an exchange program from Fisk University when I was at Pomona, and then the National Teacher Corps in Philadelphia and really getting immersed in urban issues. And then in Schenectady, where I was teaching and involved in that community. So, I mean, there have been things all along the way. So when it came to move to Cleveland, Shaker Heights was really where I wanted to be, because I knew it was a community that was working hard to stay stably integrated. And so that involvement with the League and Racial Harmony and developing that program, and also at the church and some of the other things I've mentioned. So as you know, the last few years, as we've become even more aware of white privilege and white supremacy, and the UUA structure not really giving always appropriate caring and welcoming to people of color, it seemed like we need to, again, re-engage in this. And so even before we unified, we put together a racial justice task force, which became the leadership team, with people from society and First Church, which was already underway when we joined together as UUCC and held a white privilege seminar or service workshop discussion within the first month of our becoming a congregation.
Something I really appreciate hearing, Nancy, is how much passion drives your work. It feels so good to hear you say, I love my communities, and so I do this. I love my outdoor activities, and so I do this. And you mentioned some relationships that inspired you towards your path towards racial justice work. And I was curious if there were any like global events that also precipitated that.
Well, I'm not sure that it's so much global as concern for what's happening globally. I mean, you know, we can all point to weather and any number of things. or we can point to George Floyd or Tamir Rice or any number of racial justice issues that help, sort of catalyze people's thinking. But I can't really point to particular events. It's more the accumulation of them and my own deepening understanding of, the connections, the privilege, the structures, the systemic racism, the purloining of the earth. I mean, they are all connected, and they're all part of what makes me say there's got to be a better way.
Thank
So
you, Nancy.
So Nancy, do you view and think differently about white people in this country after the rise and reign of Trump and the evolution of Trumpism?
I see two tracks going. There is this horrible white racist group that has followed Trump and has been rising, and the Southern Leadership Poverty Center has been pointing out for years that these groups are on the rise, and they're there. The other track is I see more and more white people saying, oh, I didn't know, or I'm just learning, or I'm realizing both what privilege I've had and how difficult it is to be a Black person in this country, and the wealth gap and all of those. So I see both this right-wing extremism, but also people on the other side who are really learning and wanting to do more, that are white.
The last couple of questions before we go to break. So when Dawn Arrington was on the show a couple of weeks ago, she discussed the concept of stepping into wonder when thinking about why she or anybody else might think about a certain topic in a certain way, whether it's stereotypes or anything else around issues of race or ethnicity. Do you do this too? Talk about that a little bit. Do you ever think, I wonder why I think that way? I wonder why people do things that way. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yes, I do. I will say one of the things of participating in the second round, the virtual round of Beloved Conversations, is to realize that I often read, talk to people, do things, listen to people without really deeply reflecting as much. But it is partly through that sense of curiosity, sense of how can this be? And I want to call out my friend Linda Terry Chard, who's also on in New York, who is helping me understand that she is my critical friend. And how, with Beloved Conversations, as well as a longtime friend, that this work is really about being willing to step into something new. I thought Shirley Nelson's service yesterday, and I hope everybody saw it, was wonderful. And she was really saying the same thing. Don't make assumptions. Step into learning. Find out about the person. And that is so much of what this work is about, is learning the personhood, finding out why people are thinking, doing, acting, needing, whatever it is, that it's really about that connection, that personal willingness to learn about someone else rather than judging.
So Nancy, last question for you before we go to break. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Well, of course, I knew this question was coming. So I have been
Well, you watch the show all the time, so you know it's there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it. I even, on our family Zoom call last night, asked all my grandchildren what their superpower would be. So I have gone from you know, sort of, well, I would solve climate change with justice or end the pandemic. So all those sort of grand superpowers, back to just sort of, okay, I'll put out this one as a really just sort of personal wish, of that I could read a book in 5 minutes with the same enjoyment and same memory as if I spent, you know, the 20 hours or 40 hours or whatever it takes to read a book. Because I love reading, and there are so many books I want to read.
Too many books, too little time. Absolutely. Nancy, thanks for the comments right now. Hey, gang, we're going to run a little bit late tonight. I apologize. We'll be done by 10 or a quarter after. We're going to take a brief break right now to get your questions for Nancy organized. If you have a question to ask Nancy, use the Q&A button on your the bottom of your screen here, and to ask your question there so we can get them organized. Please do not use the chat button. Use the Q&A button, please. And please, please, please ask questions. People love to hear what you guys are thinking about. We'll get things organized for you and ask your questions when we return. But first, our mid-show break with the song Both Sides Now by Judy Collins. See you in a few.
And ice cream castles in the air, and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way, but now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
That was Both Sides Now, sung by Judy Collins in a mega hit song for her. That song was written by Joni Mitchell. It's from the Judy Collins album Wildflowers, recorded in 1967. It was released as a single in '68, and it won a Grammy for Best Folk Performance. Joni Mitchell has recorded that song a couple of times herself, but I'll guarantee you listen to both of those versions. You're going to come back to the Judy Collins version. By the way, Nancy King Smith suggested that song for tonight. And it's once again one of the terrific songs we share with you each week. So Nancy, you ready to take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to start the question from Paul Ernsberger. Paul, your question is actually for Claudia. What do you got for Claudia, Paul? Paul's not there, but here's what he said, Claudia. You may know that the latest version of Star Trek Discovery, stars an astromycologist. This plot centers around space fungus. What advice do you have for aspiring astromycologists, Claudia? That's a good question.
So, I didn't know that about Star Trek, and I might have better advice for Earth mycologists, but I guess that I would tell them to focus on the role of fungi as extremophiles. So fungi can persist in environments that most organisms cannot persist in. So if there are fungi in deep space, it is likely because they are extremophiles, similar to tardigrades, which are also extremophiles, or water bears.
So for those of you who are curious, the latest Star Trek Discovery is really, really a very good TV show. And I will guarantee you, they don't spend much time talking about the stuff that Claudia is mentioning to us right now. It's much more like Star Trek with some little action to it. Next question from Liz Kantor. Liz, you have a question for Nancy King Smith. What do you got?
Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Liz, good to hear from you.
Good to see you. So what is the last great thing you read?
Oh, man. I read a lot of books, and I usually like the last book I read best, or sometimes just I'm glad to have finished it. But when you say that, I guess I'm thinking of The Warmth of Other Suns, which I read a long time ago, but I'm about ready to start reading Caste, so I've been thinking of it.
Next
Great, thank
question is from Allison Bastian. Allison, you have a question for Nancy.
Yes. Hi, Nancy. It's nice to see you. I wanted to ask you, when it's safe to travel, where would you want to visit first?
Well, Allison, it's good to hear from you, and delighted to have your daughter as the co-host tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, she's such a proud mother, Nancy. You hear it in her voice and her giggles. She's so happy about it.
So, well, I guess two places, Portland, Oregon, and Colorado Springs.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's where I would love most to go first.
Those do become priorities where our children are, for sure. Thanks.
Hey, Nancy, what's your brother's name?
Norm.
So Norm, actually, folks, Norm is on the line with us right now. He's in the audience tonight, and Norm has a question for Nancy. Norm, what's your question for Nancy? Great to have you with us tonight, by the way.
Why did Mom always like you better?
Why did Mom? Oh, now why do you think this is only a question from your brother? Well, she liked me better because I was wonderful and charming and always compliant and not raising ruckus in the household. Why else do you think, Norm?
Well, Nancy and I have had some good debates, and our hearts are in the same place. We end up a little bit differently on some of the solutions, but I just absolutely, and this is not a question, I really admire what you've done, Nancy. I really do.
Well, thank you, Norm, because I know we differ on a number of solutions for climate change, but it's good to have you with us.
Next question. Thanks for being here tonight, Norm. Next question is from Sandy Wilson. Sandy, nice to have you with us tonight here. What's your question for Nancy?
Thanks. I'm wondering if that's Lake George behind you.
Close.
Oh,
This is actually Scroon Lake, which is where our cabin is, where we.
that's right.
And that's we're just slightly north and east of Lake George, but go down there often. But I expected David would have what he usually has, which is his Palm Beach background. And I wanted to let him have a beach if I didn't have my own beach in the background.
Got to change it up once in a while, Nancy. That's pretty funny. Sandy, thanks for your question. Next question is from Lori Albright. Lori, I have to caution you. You may ask one question, please.
Oh my goodness, I'm limited to one.
One.
I have
yeah.
3 in my Q&A thing
I
here.
noticed that. Yes, you get to ask one of those.
So, I'll ask Brian's question, which is, are you optimistic about our future? Or maybe not so much?
Optimistic would be a reach. That it's, you know, we've dug ourselves in pretty deep. I am hopeful that people are waking up to that we really do need to do things differently. And there are magnificent opportunities out there. There is no magic bullet. There are lots of different ways. Paul Hawkins' Project Drawdown has 100 or so things. And so it's the big and the little and the just continuing really looking at how we can individually, but most of all collectively, make changes in how we use the Earth's resources, how we live our lives, what we eat, so much. So I would say I have a very modest hope. I'm also hopeful because of people like Claudia and the young people who are doing amazing work throughout the country and especially within UU circles. There are just some really wonderful young people who are working for climate justice and doing amazing things. So a bit of hope.
Thank you, Lori. Nancy, just so you know, since I put Lori in a box tonight, she did say in her text here that she is in awe of your leadership and vision, particularly as it relates to the work you're doing with the racial justice leadership team at UUCC. And the spooky thing about that is that, of course, since most of us are in awe of Lori, the fact that she's in awe of you means I guess most of us are double in awe of you, Nancy. So thank you.
Well, I'm always in awe of Lori. So.
Next question is from Jean Dreifer. Jean, good to have you with us tonight. What's your question for Nancy?
Gee, I cannot unmute Jean, so I'll read her question. It was, what did your mother teach you?
Oh, she taught me so many things, but I would say the biggest one is kindness and compassion. I wish I did it as well as she did, but she was always paying attention to what the other person needed. And even though I don't do it at all, I certainly learned from her.
Next question is from Samuel Cott. Samuel, good to have you with us this evening. What's your question for Nancy?
Nancy, hi. What is your favorite spot in the Adirondacks?
Oh, well, I love the whole 6 million acres. But I would have to say Screw Lake. That's where we have had a cabin for 45 years. And so that's the favorite spot. But I love the high peaks. I love Lake George. Any place.
Thank you very much.
And Samuel, I don't know you, but good to have you here.
Terry
Sam is
Robbins.
my partner, Nancy.
Oh yeah, I should have introduced myself.
All right, Sam, I knew who you were, but I didn't want to pull your cover. But I like Claudia to do it for you.
Yeah.
Terry Robbins, your question for Nancy King Smith. You're on the air.
My question is, I know Nancy attends many general assemblies, and I'm wondering if you know how many you have gone to. And if you remember, there was a year we were looking for interim ministers, and you were asked to go and see who you could find that was available.
Yeah, I do remember that.
She says it with a sigh.
I probably attended 10 or 12. I don't know, well, the last couple, plus a couple of virtual ones. Yeah, I would highly recommend every UU going to at least one General Assembly. They are inspiring, they are amazing, and even the virtual ones have a lot to offer, but it's obviously not the same as being in person.
Thanks, Terry. Mary Ellen McNulty, you're on the air with Nancy King Smith. What do you have for her this evening?
Hi, Nancy. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. So, as we all know, being president, all sorts of weird things come up. So, do you remember anything weird that came up when you were president during your first UU presidency?
Well, it was my first and only UU presidency.
Okay. So do you remember anything that came up during that year that was odd?
Well,
Okay, that you can say within the bounds of secrecy.
well, I will say two things. The thing that was most fun, which wasn't necessarily odd, but we were working on a strategic plan, and we did this fabulous video of the church dancing. On to 2 services, we were growing.
Yeah.
It was really an exciting time, and we and so this video promoting the strategic plan showed everybody, including Bruce Marshall, leading people through the church dancing.
I remember that. That was fun. I remember that.
The sad things happened right after my presidency. So.
Correct. I do remember one of the things you said to me as I was leaving the end of my presidency. You said that because we were putting it into the bylaws that the president would stay on an extra year. And you said you thought it was an excellent idea and you were glad it didn't happen when you were president.
You got that absolutely right, because right after my presidency, things fell apart.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to.
And you were very glad to not be on the board. Yeah. Okay. So, and are you sad not to be living in Shaker anymore?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I like it. I like South Franklin Circle. We're happy.
Yeah.
It's good, but I do miss Shaker Heights.
We miss you in the Heights. Okay. That was my question.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Last question from Sandy Holmes. Sandy, good to have you with us tonight. Your
Thanks,
question
David.
is our last question for Nancy King Smith.
Okay, Nancy, can you share with the group what a Tawanda is?
Oh, I certainly can. Tawanda is you and Jan Devereaux and Elaine Stevens and Margie Coates, and sometimes all of our husbands. But the real Tawanda are the 5 women who I just mentioned, who have been enjoying each other's company, going on trips, supporting each other, crying, laughing, etc. And if anybody remembers fried green tomatoes, at one point we were getting on a plane to go on like our first real away adventure. Margie Coates got on the plane and said, "Tawanda!" The Tawanda we've been ever since.
Thanks, Nancy. And thanks everybody for your questions this evening. I didn't specifically solicit comments for this evening's comments section, so I thought I'd share with you some of the anonymous comments we received from folks who responded to the viewership survey. Here they are. I attend when I can. Mondays are long work days for me. I really enjoy the format, hosts, guests, and topics. I really can't think of anything that needs changing. Well done, UUCC Zoom Live crew. Next comment, I'm not opposed to tweaking the format in any of the ways proposed, just have no strong feelings about it. Give Jack Ullman more time if he would enjoy that. I certainly would. So I guess for that person, I guess your check's in the mail from Jack right now. Another comment came in saying, I want to hear more from the young people. I hope that you heard enough from Claudia this evening. It's a great way to stay connected and get to know UUCC folks better. Thanks for doing it. Another comment, show has been a great way to connect UUCC folks and also learn more about the people who are guests. I also like having some of our young adults as co-hosts. So do I. Another comment, I really enjoy getting to know some of our fellow congregants better, to learn about their history, relationships with family, work, concerns, etc. The co-hosts seem to be doing better as they get more comfortable and more familiar with the people on the setup. Jack's comedy moment is fabulous. We've gotten some great belly laughs from that segment. I think the show is a great community builder. And finally, Zoom-In Live is a creative, exciting, and thoughtful way to connect in these isolated times. COVID has certainly shut us down in many ways and of necessity opened up new ways of connecting that have served to deepen our relationships despite distance. Say amen, everybody. We'll bring you some more comments next time. And for future shows, if you have comments or questions to share, please send them to, you see it on the bottom there, Zoom-In at uucleveland.org. That's Zoom-In, ZOOMIN at uucleveland.org. If you have comments or questions or thoughts to share, please send them to us. We read them out loud as you note, and as you note, your fellow congregants love to hear those things. So we're running out of show. Nancy, thanks so much for being our special guest tonight. We really do appreciate it. It was you give us great stories and great insights. Thank you so much. And Claudia, how about our next show?
Next show will be on Monday, March 8th with special guest Peggy Lodgeny. Peggy is most visible.
You were close.
Lagodny. Sorry, Peggy. Peggy Lagodny. Peggy is most visible to many of us these days as a major contributor to our Sunday worship services. Those of us who have seen her there know that she's on an interesting spiritual journey. But there's a lot more to Peggy than that. She was a governing body leader at the Society and was a member of the reunification task force that developed the terms for the Society and First U to reunify. We'll discuss these areas and a whole lot more on the next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live.
So gang, let's give a major league round of applause to Carol Gay, our producer. As I say each show, I do the easy stuff. And as a reminder, if you'd like to catch up with your fellow congregants after the show, just stay right here for a chance to chat with your fellow UUs. Carol will get you squared away following our wrap-up music. Speaking of which, we're going to leave you tonight with one of the Beatles' many #1 hits, Paperback Writer. And we'll see you, we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. The next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live. Nancy and Claudia, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night. Great to see you.
Good, everybody. Thanks so much. And Nancy, again, thank you once more. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
You can turn your cameras on now.
It's on. Mine's on. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
Hi, how are you?
haven't seen you for a while.
I know I missed Tuesday for the coffee hour. I meant to get to it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, too bad Sandy left. I was hoping she'd jump on. I haven't seen her in ages. It was nice to hear her voice.
Yeah. So I never put two and two together to realize that